All right, here's a few news things. This one's pretty good. Let me turn on the sound. Let's see, where's the sound? There. They turn this visual into sound. Which I think is a pretty nice transformation. You know, they turned that pretty picture into a pretty sound, which is nice. Anyway, another way to show astronomical pictures or any other pictures, I suppose. So this one was pretty interesting. China recently sent this hypersonic glider around the Earth, which made a lot of Americans pretty upset. It was a show of strength. And apparently they have an ability that we do not have, which is to fire missiles while you're going at Mach 5 through the atmosphere. They fired a missile. And they're denying it, but anyway, I imagine it's probably true, because that's how they generally operate, is to just boldly lie about their military operations, like attacking our infrastructure or our companies or something. So anyway, China's getting more aggressive, Russia's getting more aggressive. Hopefully neither of them really wants a war, but they certainly want to rattle sabers right now, presumably because China wants to dominate Taiwan and Russia wants to take over Ukraine. From what I hear, the smart money is saying that Russia will not invade right away and neither will China right away. But they're being aggressive, sort of saying they could invade and we better not get in their way. We'll see what happens. This is pretty valuable. I was pretty impressed by this. The levels of conspiracy theories as people sink away from reality into madness. I figure out some way to make it bigger. I have to do it this way, apparently. So you start with things like Watergate and COINTELPRO, which are real conspiracies that really did awful things. Like COINTELPRO was the FBI plotting to destroy Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and other black leaders. That really happened. Then you got the beginning to leave reality with UFOs, but that's relatively harmless. Then you got the Titanic never sank, and Michael Jackson is still alive. This is when you're really beginning to lie. Here's when you move up into the dangerous to yourself and others. COVID is a bioweapon. Vaccines don't work. Pandemic and all that jazz. These are the people that we hear the most about these days, I think. The people that are endangering everybody by refusing to take the vaccine. But up here you get the violent ones that want to start wars, like QAnon, the Great Replacement Theory from Tucker Carlson, and so on. Anyway, it's a pretty good idea. And also the anti-Semitic point, where you start blaming Jews for everything. That's where you get the protocols of the elders of Zion and so on. It's pretty useful. Anyway, see, saw Michael with Bruce Lee, Elvis, and yeah, that's right. You know, I think it's useful to see that the comparison of the various different conspiracies there, as more people have sunk into more madness than usual in our country. So here's a video from one of the students in this class. Jordan's on here. They gave a presentation at Hack Miami on how to use Terraform, which you can use to spin up Amazon virtual machines and then perform simulated attacks on them. So you can set up a sort of CPTC contest, which is what they're doing, which is very nice. Yes, that seems to be the general explanation as Facebook drove us mad. That's what most people say. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that can be the whole story, but apparently that's a big part of it. So in the same spirit, people are going home for Thanksgiving and Christmas and typically having horrible political arguments there. And so various people giving various advice. I thought this podcast was wonderful. This guy was, I think, a gay YouTuber or something. He was somehow on social media and openly gay, and a bunch of people hated him. And so he decided to try to find ways to understand the people that hated him, and eventually called up the people that hated him to have conversations with people who hate him, and made a podcast about that. And he has very good discussions here I thought were very helpful, how to deal with people that hate you for no good reason. And I think I like his ideas, so I recommend listening to that. I think we all have to do this now. I think everybody This is what happened before the last Civil War in America. Families are split up. I know a lot of people that tell me they can't speak to any of their family members. Some of their family members are now gone utterly. They can't speak to them anymore because all they will do is babble about horrible nonsense that nobody wants to hear. And I've got people like that. You see, it's an important thing to deal with. And I recommend communicating with people on some level, even if they have crazy beliefs. So Nicole Perlroth says that Germany's new government has decided to stop buying zero-day exploits. Germany's government in the past has been much more open than the United States government about seeking cyber weapons and using them against criminals. And now apparently they're reversing that. So that is interesting. It will be interesting to see if this becomes a trend. Right now, cyber weapons sell like crazy at high prices, just like other kinds of weapons, and often to the worst governments. So we'll see what happens if Germany unilaterally disarms from 0 days. Google claimed to have quantum supremacy a couple years ago. They claimed that their quantum computer was faster than a classical computer, but it was pretty rigged contest. What they did was make the task to test it on be the quantum computer settling to its natural state, where it just does that, and the digital computer has to simulate that. And now, what happened is it turned out the algorithm they used for the digital computer was not the best. Someone invented a faster algorithm for the digital computer to do it. Like we've talked about a lot in this course, you rely on something like factoring something into its component primes to be difficult, but you really don't know if somebody's going to find a faster way to do that. And if they do, then that's not a hard problem anymore. And that apparently has happened to Google. The hard problem they relied on got a little easier. Anyway, it's kind of a meaningless thing whether you've beaten a classical computer or not, but that's where they are. All right, I'm having a little trouble with my camera positioning here. My glorious theatrical setup of ropes and wires is not as perfect as it ought to be. Anyway, so Apple is suing the NSO group that sells surveillance software to military all over the place on the grounds that they are violating the terms of service by hacking into iPhones and then selling attacks that will hack into iPhones, which is probably true, although I'm not sure if it's an enforceable law, but it's an interesting idea. Again, trying to do something about the world of 0 days and weaponized exploits. We will see what comes of that. Chain Runner is the new NFTs. There are 10,000 of them, and they're 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So, and this seems to be what most people do. They release NFTs in a batch of 10,000 just for speculators to buy and hope the price goes up. That thing seems to me kind of madness. But anyway, and I wondered what they look like, so here's what they look like. They look like little video game characters. So there are 10,000 of them, and they made a pretty website to show them off and talk about how great they are and such. The one thing that I've never seen happen yet is to have someone actually make a video game where you have to buy an NFT to play the video game. They've been talking about that, and that would seem very logical to me. It could just be the purchase price for entrance into a game. It could be the ticket to a concert as an NFT. None of those things have quite happened yet, but they're all coming. So far, the NFTs are either just complete garbage, no artistic value at all, just for speculation, or they are ways to support an artist because you like their art. Lots of video game, a lot of people are talking about NFTs. I think NFTs are a real use case of the blockchain. Other people are still madder than hell about them. And at first I said, this is silly. You could just do the same thing with like little physical coins or plaques to collect. And you could. There's just another way to do the same thing, but it happens to be the fashionable way to do it. And things like souvenirs are pretty much just a matter of fashion anyway. So, well, yeah. I mean, NFTs are kind of silly, but really are they any sillier than any other souvenir? Like you go to San Francisco, you buy a statue of some kind. It's just a souvenir. The actual object is not really the point. Anyway, all right. So that's the news. Let me make a separate video.